Hey everybody, this is Captain Fool reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy. Alright everybody, for those of you that know the drill, I go over a bunch of comic books for the week that I chose to read. Now I didn't have time to read everything, so if I missed something you think I should have read, let me know in the comments below. Also, you may disagree with me on some of my choices. If that's the case, that's alright. Let me know below. Let's just try to keep it civil. My goal is to bring back the old schoolyard days, where we would be in discussing what hero could beat who or what comic book was good and not. And I come armed with my trusty notes, so you'll hear the paper rattle because I do it a little bit old school. I do my grading on a scale of 0 through 10, 7 being average as a 70%. So I'm using schoolyard grading. But that's not all. I also use the League of Comics Geeks to give you other people's views as well as a brief overview of the comic book as well. So let's jump right in. Welcome back, comic book fans, for another weekly comic book review. I want to start off by saying I'm sorry for everybody, to everybody, that I did not get a weekly comic book review out last week. I had a major life event issue happen that's been taking some time, and I will say it did put some pressure and stress on me, but I have faith in the way things are looking. It's probably going to be for the betterment in the long run. So with that said, I want to start with issue Nightwing, issue number 126 on League of Comics Geeks. And it had 246 ratings, very positive score with a 4.0. I gave the book a 7, so not as strong as they did. The writer is Dan Watters, and the artist and colorist is Francisco Franzavella. Anyway, we have, again, another corrupt police officer story here. And he's taking down cops, okay? And supposedly he's returned from the dead, you're supposed to think. But we get a reason why, what happens here, and why these particular people are coming. So we got a conspiracy anyway with the police department, and that's where I think I don't agree with such a high score, because I give this book a 7. I think the comic needs this comic needs to stop with the bad cop theme. We get enough of that in comic books all the time. Oh, there's dirty bad cop stories. So that didn't help any, and plus I thought it was mediocre art, though there is decent characterization in this. So while it's not a spectacular book by any means, it's not great either. I'm going to read something a little different to my view. Since I gave it a 7, I'm going to read somebody who gave it a really high score, just to get a little view that's different. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but part of it. One of my favorite issues yet. Maggie struggling with her morals and recent decisions was portrayed masterfully. And that, I agree with. That's why I gave it good characterization, and in a way that felt genuine. There was also a parallel that was unexpected but really powerful. Overall, I feel like this 2-issue arc added an extra layer of depth and humanity to the story, and I loved that. So there we go. But he did mention people complaining about the story. I guess that would be me, right? On a side note, I can't believe people are complaining about the art. I didn't even think it was possible to dislike this artist's art there. If you're up to me, I'd love to see an entire run illustrated by him. I'm not a big fan of this art style. That's where it gets interesting in comic shops, where we don't always agree about things like that. The art, what somebody loves, somebody dislikes. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the art style as well as this issue? The next one, I thought I would try something different and something new, The Thing. So I went with Somebody with Eyes of Blue, right? The Thing number 1 had 209 ratings with a 4.0, very positive. So it's off to a good start, yeah, on League of Comics Geeks there. And I agree. I gave the book an 8. I gave this one a pretty high start off as well. The writer is Tony Fleece, artist Justin Mason. And the Thing clobbers the Marvel Universe. Yes, Ben Grimm may be the strongest member of the Fantastic Four, but once upon a time, he was just a scrawny kid from Yancey Street. When an unexpected visitor from his past sends him on a search for a missing child, the Thing must unravel the mystery, even if that means becoming a wanted man. You know, Thing doesn't really have his own rogues gallery that's very good, you know, in my opinion, but I think this one starts off well. Someone wants to take the Thing out in this as well, because he's getting, I think, involved in this is why they're trying to take him out. So Thing is searching for this missing girl, and at the end we have Kingpin. So we know Kingpin is in this and connected in some way. The story's off to a good start, so if you want to try something different, the Thing might be something that you would want to look at. You know, it's doing well, so I'm not going to read anybody else's comments on that one. I'm going to skip to another one here. We're going to go with Thunderbolts Doomstrike number 5 with 114 ratings, 3.9, mostly positive, and I gave the book a 7.3. The cover is, well, it's okay, but there is an alternate cover with Black Widow that is pretty good, and that's the one to get if you see, I think. The writer's Jackson Lansing, and Colin Kelly, and the artist is Tommaso Bianchi. Once again, I butcher all names. Anyway, we have the final showdown. Thunderbolts face off against Dooms to determine the fate of the revolution. What's sort of cool is we get some Thunderbolts realizing, hey, I think I'm on the wrong side of this. So I like that. We also get Captain America joining the mission here in his non-Captain America suit. The art, though, in my opinion, could be better. So this is contributing to my 7.3. Not a bad score, but not great. The Fixer is the character, by the way, that switches sides. I'm spoiling it for you. The Winter Soldier has sparked a revolution, and the next issue is going to give us another team, it looks like, together there. There's a big battle there in this issue, but I think that battle could have been better. But that's, you know, my thoughts. Let's check out somebody else's. As I said, I gave the book 7.3. Let's find a high one here. We have a 5-star. Incredible issue. Best Doom tie-in series, hands down. Revolution! Spread anarchy! Hyped for the new Avengers, especially with Eddie Brock Carnage coming in. I love what they set up at the end of this arc. Might even be my pick of the week. Wow. That is a high 5-star one. Let's go to one that does not agree with that. That's lower than my view with a 1.5 stars. Steve and Sharon are finally free from the shackles of these writers and their Bucky glazing for the past 4 years. Yay! I hope the Cap office threw the keys away. Wow, that is somebody that definitely did not agree. So as you see here, we got a good comic book discussion here back and forth. And speaking of which side would you fall on? Did you read this? Was it good or was it not so good? Hey guys, today's video is sponsored by My Wallet. Yeah, I'm not trying to push any kind of wallet or pimp any wallet out. What I mean is it's sponsored by my personal wallet and the cash that comes out of it to pay for these things. If you want to help with this, you can hit like, subscribe, that notification bell. Those are great ways to get started. But if you find yourself in a position where you can help the channel more, we have a Patreon and a subscribe star down below that you can click on those links. And for as little as $1 a month, you'll have special videos and things to just you, music that you can get. Or maybe if you wanted to, a one-time donation just to help out, we have a Streamlabs link down below. Or we also have, if you go to the Patreon shop, you could buy a song for like $3. I wish I could put them a little lower, but that's the minimum they allow for that. So there's lots of options. Sometimes you might even see an Amazon link. If you want to buy anything through Amazon, click on my link first, then go through there. That'll give me a couple pennies, possibly that way too as well. So there's lots of ways you can help out the channel, because without you, it would not be possible. So thank you, everybody. And let's get back to the video. Next one I want to talk about is Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, issue number 8. It had 240 ratings with a 4.6 score on League of Comics Geeks, and I gave the book a 7. I don't think it was the strongest issue. Writer is Jed MacKay, artist is Dev Pramanik, and there definitely is some differences here. Yep, definitely people think differently. Anyway, this issue starts off with Carver, where she is killing Moon Knight. Yep, but that's actually what Moon Knight wanted her to do. And then it goes from there, which I don't know. This issue seems a little unnecessary to the complete story to me. Seems maybe like a little bit of a fill-in, but I could be wrong there. And what I also found is, in my opinion, the art can be a little hard to follow at times. So as I gave the book a 7, I'm not saying it's terrible. It was far from, in my opinion, the best issue. But let's read somebody with a very different opinion from mine that gave it 5 stars. It starts with, best issue of this run. Holy beep, yeah. First Iron Man, now Moon Knight. I don't get it with the question marks there. McKay, oh, okay. And he thinks this is amazing. Seriously, this is one of the best issues of pure Moon Knight goodness that Mackie has produced since the original run. I feel he has once again created such a compelling foe that perfectly fits Moon Knight and made a brilliant story out of it. I love this so much. Yes, we do have Moon Knight ultimately going against an Asgardian here. It's going to be interesting in that regard. There are so many things about McKay's Moon Knight saga that makes it amazing. But one of the most important to me is how he's able to invent these stories and characters that feel truly tailor-made for the Moon Knight story. McKay continues to innovate for this character, and issues like this one, characters like Carver, are the reason why, unlike some others, I really am not getting tired of this creative team at all. They're still pushing the limits, they're still showing off their fresh ideas, and they're still making truly worthwhile contributions to Moon Knight's mythos, creating characters which should, and I hope will, remain part of this book long after McKay is done. Incredible. I have to agree, he is doing a lot of things different with this character that is keeping it interesting and fresh for as long as he's been on the book. So I am enjoying that. Really, as I'm going through it, I don't see anything that negative to counter it. So bravo. What are your thoughts on it? I know some of my watchers here are not big fans of Moon Knight, and that's okay too. Let's shift gears though to the Ultimates number 12 with 800 ratings with a 4.4, very positive. So I think the readership is starting to slip away. The numbers aren't as high for this. I gave the book a 7.2, not terrible, but I don't think it's as good as some of them that we've had. The writer's Dead's Camp and artist is Juan Frigeri. The Ultimate team is fractured, but really what this whole issue is them hammering things out, especially between the Hank Pym, Dr. Doom, that is, right? Reed Richards Doom, and the rest of the team. But it really doesn't go the way you would expect, but it did go a little slow in the pacing with a lot of talking, but the art's pretty good. And we would get revealed that there's a traitor amongst this team. It's probably not somebody that you would expect. Yeah, the story continues to be a bit of a convoluted mess, which though is, okay, sort of expected to a degree sometimes this writer, but wasn't bad. Ultimately gets a pretty good overall. I know some people on the interwebs there are disliking this, and I have some understanding reasons why, and some things that are ham-fisted they're thrown in there. With that said, let's jump to the Incredible Hulk number 25 with 149 ratings with a 4.1 score. Very positive. Yeah, I gave the book a 7.3, not quite as high as they did. Writer Philip Kennedy Johnson, artist is Nick Klein. I will say I like this cover with Thor and the Hulk right at the beginning there. There is some alternate covers I didn't really care for as much, with maybe the exception of another one with both Hulk and Thor on the cover, but this cover I really did like. I think is a good one to make you go, wow, I want to pull this off the shelf. Incredible Hulk versus, yes, the Mighty Thor, and that's not a misleading cover. We actually do get that fight in this issue. It's an interesting take. It's the traditional misunderstanding sort of thing here. Charlie was in Hulk were searching for Doctor Strange. They ended up, how that happened last issue. If you watched my review of that, the Sanctum Sanctorum got busted up a lot, but it gets better. It gets fixed, right? And anyway, Thor Odinson comes down and says, hey, Charlie's the vessel. I'm going to be taking her. And Hulk's like, no, you're not. And well, then the good old Marvel calamity ensues. So Hulk vs. Thor, in my opinion, is always fun. It's a good battle, good art. The story did not need all these backstory pages, though. I think there was a little bit of a miss there in that regard. And so I'm going to read somebody else that gave this book a 3.5. I want to give this 4 stars because I generally do think it deserves it. Badass action and top tier art and good resolution and some teasing for the setup
of a new Avengers team at the end. This issue does almost everything right. My only gripe is that Thor continues to be written incorrectly outside of his solo. I understand it's near impossible to do stories like this. You know, that's a good point, and keep them in line with what Ewing's doing in the Immortal Thor. But we must ask if we should do these stories at all. I agree, the continuity, it should be put together properly, and that's something I've been noticing a lot in Marvel lately. These editors and things like that, they're supposed to be keeping everything in continuity, aren't really doing a great job. I mean, we've seen that with the instances with the Red Hulk. It's completely out of continuity, so there is some mistakes there. Otherwise, this book is getting a lot of really good ones. Here's a 4-star, an epic fight between Hulk and Thor, definitely one for the books. Well, it isn't a book. Let's go to a 3-star. It was not as good as I thought it would be, but I still enjoyed it. Hey, I think that's not a bad way to have a comic book go out, is it? Not as good as I thought it was gonna be, but I still enjoyed it. If that's your complaint, that's a pretty good one. Going to metal time, heavy metal, Iron Man number 8. 127 ratings, a 3.9 score on League of Comics Geeks. Mostly positive, but I gave the book a 7, not as high. Writer Spencer Ackerman, artist Michael Dowling. And well, phew, I do think the cover's pretty cool with Black Widow on it and Iron Man. There's some alternate covers which are pretty good, except I would say 2 out of the 4 are pretty good. Anyway, by any means of production necessary, back in the weapons business, Iron Man will cross the line after line to stop Emperor Doom. As you remember, he's getting back into it to sort of get on the inside and betray him. But the Black Widow is just as determined to save her friend from himself. Can Tony thwart the super spy supreme before she throws a wrench into his machine? That rhymed. It's worker versus CEO as well as the insurgent Iron Man escalates, and there's where some of the problem comes to me. Anyway, I thought the book has decent art. I gave it a 7. There's good pacing in this, but man, this book is too political with the work atmosphere. I'm sorry, but I mean, Tony there's a union, and the union is really treated super powerfully here. Tony could hire other people to build this stuff, but he completely caves and gives the union everything they want. I know this is comic books, but come on now. It gets ridiculous to some men. And trust me, I am for the average man, the worker, but I also understand the business aspect of things too. You don't take a job, and then when you choose that, oh, you know what, I don't agree with that, well, then it's not the job for you and you have to leave. And I've been in that situation before where I've had jobs. It's like, you know what, things have changed here. It's not what it used to be. The direction, maybe the main mission has changed. And I decided it wasn't a job for me and left. And I've also been on the other side of things too, where maybe cutbacks were made and lost jobs. And I know that can be tough. So it's just the way this dynamic worked didn't really work for me. I don't think it just didn't make any sense from a worker owner perspective. So let's read somebody else's that did not like this and gave it a 1 star. I hate this run. I asked a friend a question about Iron Man last night, someone who isn't so much in the culture anymore, but knows enough about the character for adoring him in their youth, and gave me an informed answer. What would you do to intentionally screw up Tony Stark's character? Their answer? Make him sell weapons again. Okay, so they're mad that he's doing this. My answer? Make him stupid. This run does both. Okay, I get that. You know, this is about him shifting into weapons design, but you got to understand why he's doing it. So that part I don't think runs well there. But another point this person does make, and I agree, is Tony installed Tony's brand new suit, which has Iron GPT, which is, you know, AI. But it's his AI sucks. This is Tony Stark. If anybody's going to make AI, it should be pretty good if it's Tony Stark, I would think. I mean, he's a smart character, so they don't really show him that way. And so those are some of their main gripes. And I agree with some and I disagree with others, but let's look at one that's really high score then to counterbalance that. One thing Anchorman is doing right now with this run is having characters who are directly impacted by Tony challenging him. I have no interest in reading about the Avengers confronting him again, to be honest. I believe that superheroes need to constantly change and grow in order for them to be believable as heroic figures, and Iron Man is a character who, for better or worse, has frequently been confronted by his mistakes, flaws, and blind spots. and even when he is initially reluctant to, and someone who is genuinely wants to know about them so he can be better. Okay, fair enough. But person's character still tends to stay somewhat similar unless they have life-altering events with triggering events that causes a person's character to change. But they still should somewhat relate that character, I would assume. So it's an interesting take there. But, it is what it is. So Iron Man's getting a really mixed bag of reviews here. So I would love to know your take on Iron Man, especially somebody in particular that watches these videos. I appreciate you and I love your takes on Iron Man. They're always so much more fulfilling than mine. So hands off to you on that one. Let's talk about a controversial series next here. This is one that might be having a bounce back, at least by some other people's opinions. After having recently horrible runs, The Amazing Spider-Man #4 has 453 ratings with a 4.1 score, very positive. Now, this might sound good, like it's on an uptick. I gave this book a 7, but I want you to realize 453 ratings. That's down by, it used to, before the last couple story arcs, this was getting around 1,000 ratings. This series was 800 to 1,000. So how many readers were shed on The Amazing Spider-Man over the last few runs being so horrific? So my question is we have to ask ourselves, is this new team bringing readers back? And with those numbers, I'm going to have to guess no. It's not doing enough to bring readers back, even though it's getting a very positive score. So writer is Joe Kelly and ours is Pepe Larraz. As much as maybe they're setting the book in a better direction by people's popular opinion, it is questionable if it's enough. The cause of Spider-Man and Rhino's rampages and the mastermind behind it is revealed. Norman Osborn is also ain't the only goblin, right? No, we get the Hobgoblin back in this one too. We get this character Itsy Bitsy, which is a stupid character in my opinion. Don't care for that character at all. Though I do like what we're getting from Norman Osborn here. I am not a fan of the art style of this series. I'm going to be upfront. I think, some people love it, some don't. I just can't really get into it. Get rid of this Shay character as well. I'm sorry, but I don't like Shay Markin. I'm sorry, she might be his new love interest. That character sucks. It doesn't seem like Marvel writers can tend to come up with a character for him other than MJ that's any good anymore. I just don't get it. Also, on top of that, I don't like how this artist is really misconstruing Peter's past, or retconning it, if you will, changing the past. I'm not a big fan of that. They're doing it to craft the story. I don't think it needed to be done for this. Yeah, and well, with that said, I don't get it. Peter's friend, though, does find the drug, and he's already found a way, he must be a pretty smart dude, to counteract it. Now, this book does have some interesting extra covers that you can get. The main cover is okay, but there's some other ones. There's some retailer exclusive ones that are just knockout fantastic, like one with the Black Cat and Spider-Man. Awesome, but probably not really worth the money you'd have to pay to get it. So as I said, I gave this book a 7. Let's see what some other people's reviews are. Let's first start with a positive review, a part of it. This one is a 3.5. This issue starts off just how you would expect. A Peter Parker day to go. Man's trying to keep his job and hold his life together while everything around him just keeps falling apart. Classic. I give him a point. That makes sense there. Right after that, though, we're thrown into some fast-paced action, and I gotta say it early. The art by Pepe Larraz is absolutely amazing, so there we go. Amazing. So completely disagreed with me there. Here's another one that's a 3-star. I want to love it. I really want to love reading Spider-Man again. I feel you, right, reader? I do. It's just not there yet. The art is fantastic. Pepe carries this issue the whole way in all times. This type of art that needs to be on the Amazing Spider-Man titles. Most of this issue is just a big fight. Everything feels dynamic and has crazy motion, which is right on Pepe's wheelhouse. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So yeah, they're liking it. But you know what? Let's find somebody that doesn't. Fourth verse, same as the first. That's how the saying goes on. By the way, this is like a 2-star review. It's another very generic, brand new day light Spider-Man story. Boy, that's maybe how I feel about it. Not terrible, but nothing that hasn't been done before. As always, the artwork is phenomenal. See, I am the different person here. I don't like the artwork. Tell me how I'm wrong, because it seems like from what I'm seeing here, most people do not agree with me on the artwork on this issue. So I really would like to know yours. You know, I had a lot of Marvel. I only have one or a couple DCs here, and I'm going to finish it off today with Batman Superman World's Finest issue 39. 345 ratings with a 4.0, very positive score. I gave the book a positive score with the score of 8 as well. And that says a lot considering the writer is Mark Waid and the artist is Clayton Henry. The Batman Superman of yesterday, today, and Gorilla Grodd's vicious temporal onslaught upon the Justice League continues. The Dark Knight and the Man of Steel, from the time of the world's finest, get a horrifying glimpse into their own futures. Yeah, it is a time thing, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not usually a fan of time jumping back and forth, time stories. I'm just not into those, but I have to say, this one's been interesting. I like it. Good story, good art, good characterization. This has been a fun story, and I have to say I've been appreciating it. It's interesting how we get 2 dicks in one issue. 2 dicks in one issue. Because, you know, past meets the present, and we get a little bit of fun there. Overall, a lot of pretty similar views on the book, a lot of high ones. I don't see any that are massively different, so there's nothing really major to share. People are liking this series, so if you could get past the writer being a bag of dickheads, they're a dickhead, whatever you want to call them, a jerk, then maybe check this one out. Well, ultimately, everyone, thank you so much for all your support. I greatly appreciate it. As I said earlier, I've been going through a little bit of some troubling, stressful times, but the Lord does provide. I keep my head up there and never lose faith. He will guide you and put you where you need to be at all times. I'm not through it all yet, but I've had several good things start to pop up out of that. So we'll hope to continue that does, and ultimately creates a new dynamic chapter in my life. I'm using this as a triggering event to make change. And that's one thing, whenever things might be seeming to go bad, don't just have a mindset of everything's terrible. Change your mindset if you can to what are the opportunities that come from this. Maybe it's time to try something new, do something new that you wouldn't have thought about before, a slight shift in what your plans are, getting back on track to what you intended to do years before. You never know what's in store. All right, everybody, thank you for your time. Greatly appreciate all of you. Until next time, keep it frugal.